what they'll call the facio. I think that's the make or the action or that is taken to determine if a will is legitimate and able to be probated. See probate. That's what I need to look up. Probate. See what I'm saying? They could take your shit and put somebody else there. A treatise is a written work. Yeah, it's a written work.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I'm not going with the words treaties or treaty. How about this? How about this, Artie? How about I'm going with an instrument? How about let's just take it there? How about whatever treaty or treatise it is, it's an instrument. How about that? Can we agree on that one?
I'm live.
We can override both of them words.
You can
They're
see me.
instruments. That's what a will is an instrument. And that's what a treaty is and a treatise. Now, there might be different types of treaties. Like a treaty is like if me and you got in a fight and you
What's
punched
up,
me in my
Celine?
face long enough. And I said, I quit. And you said, you ain't gonna mess with me no more? I said, no, that's a treaty. Artie, that's a treaty. You say, you better sign it or I'm gonna punch in your mouth again. I'm saying, okay, Artie, I'll sign this treaty.
I'm live. I don't.
Now you can put some wheels, you can put some
Can
obligations.
you even hear me?
Like, look, you're gonna be driving your car.
Yeah, you should be able to hear me.
Day, or I punch you again. You know, it's just if I sign that treaty, I sign that treaty.
Norristown, don't.
But it's a contract. It's an instrument.
I don't know why I do this to myself, man. I'm still waiting for him to realize that I joined on his thing.
Can't get out of that one. And I'm gonna take you to the first instrument. I'm just building this up a little bit, so I know how to talk it. I'm building this up for myself, so I know how to talk it.
My God, this is why you gotta have your chat.
You got that right. $5 Indians are not Moors. You got that right. Like, Artie's peace and light, brother. Peace and light, brother. How you doing, brother?
How you doing, man? You laying low?
Sword, yes, sir. My sword ready to get sharpened, bro. If it can get sharpened. I love your respect. Go check out my dude Artie's channel. Man, y'all have to understand. People that think they know something, he will let you know if you know it because he's gonna ask you to read it to him.
Well, no, that's very, very true. But I think I missed you. Well, the first thing when I joined in, I can't remember where exactly you were at. You were looking up a will or an instrument. But I do wanted to say to you that you were looking for what happens if somebody dies without a will. Well, that means that the person died intestate, and that means that how their property is distributed is based upon the state law, and because each state has its own laws as to how disposition of property happens to somebody who dies without a will. So that's the answer to your question.
Fact. So if somebody of an area, they died and they didn't have a will, the judge will have to give the property to the state, and the state will do what the state laws tell it to do. But if the person, my fault. Go ahead.
It's not so much that the property goes to the state. However, in initial terms, the state, the state gets priority. So in other words, if you die and you actually owed like $2,000 in back taxes, the state gets that before anybody else. But barring that, let's say for the sake of argument that they don't have any tax obligations or whatever when they pass away, the property or funds or what have you does not go to the state. What happens is that when somebody dies intestate, the state governs who gets priority over the assets. In other words, whether or not the kids get it, the spouse gets it, or and so on and so forth until the property is distributed. If there is nobody, in other words, say I die and I have no children, I had no spouse, and sometimes I don't have my parents are still alive, or my parents are no longer around. I don't have any sort of immediate family members available. Then only at that point does the state eventually actually get the property. But the state laws are different as to who gets priority first. But again, that only happens when somebody dies without a will. Once somebody writes a will, then that person can dictate to where their assets go to whoever the hell they want.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is the people got tricked out of this land, whatever we call them, through the will and testate because they didn't sign one.
Well, a
And so
will is not a collective. Will can't be a collective action, though.
now, if I didn't, now say if something happened to my peoples, my family members, and they did not leave me nothing. How can I get something that they did not leave me?
Well, that's exactly the point.
So if a person don't sign a will, their family cannot get nothing. The state will take control of it until the right litigations that the heirs to that thing do something. If they never do nothing,
Well,
it belongs to the state interest.
well, if they passed away without any sort of assets, then yeah, you're not going to get anything.
But what if you die like say if like my family members died with assets
Okay.
and they did not put me in their will.
Okay. If they
And
died, no, I'm sorry. Go finish your thought. Sorry.
yeah, I was trying to say, like, say if I was like my great grandmother's or my grandmother's last heir, her kids was dead and she did not leave me in her will. So when she dies and the stuff goes to court, the court is not going to bring me in to have any say so because I'm not on the will and I have not made a claim on anything. So the land get passed to the state and its interests to make sure that the law is held.
If she died intestate, in other words, if she died without a will, like I said, the property does not automatically go to the state. That's what I just said. What happens is that each state, and again, this depends on where she was residing when she passed away. So if she was residing in the state of New Jersey, then the New Jersey's law would take hold. If she died intestate, therefore, when she dies, according to the rules of the state, and the state will have it in their written law, if someone were to pass away intestate, priority to the assets would go to the children, for example, or the spouse, the someone who wed, and then it would go on further and further and further and further down. And also on top of that, if say for example that person died who had both spouse and children, then there would be a division of assets. So say for example that you had you passed away, you had assets, but you didn't die with a will, but you had a wife that you divorced. Well, because you were already divorced, then you wouldn't get she wouldn't get the assets, but your kids would get the assets if you had any. You see what I'm saying? And this direction of where they go is governed by the state law. So again, it's not that the state gets the funds, is that the state directs the funds. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I'm glad you said that. And the state, which is a trust, puts the property in a trust. Or puts them out. So I'm agreeing with you saying though. I'm saying it a little. Let me make sure I say this right. If my ancestors did not, if my ancestors all went to war, okay, and they died, and the children somehow whatever happened, and the land was intested, they died in intestine. You know what I'm saying? And they wasn't the testors, and the will did not have the great grandchildren and the great grandchildren and the great grandchildren on there. If my peoples 100 years ago didn't sign a treaty, didn't sign a will, I'm an heir of that bloodline, so I can go all the way back and I can start putting claims on that shit.
No.
That's why can't I?
Because you just said that they died in a war. Number one, that's if you die in a war and the conquering the victor takes over the land, they're not going to adhere to whatever intestate rules that exist. Furthermore, again, and I told you this earlier, wills and probate are on a singular basis. You can't collectively write a will as an entire nation and leave it to your heirs. in order for, and then claim property to the supposed victor of this war that happened. That's not how it works.
That's what it say right here. It's saying in all laws that a person can come back. Damn, I see. I went real far, but okay, hold on. Here's where I'm going with that. See, when we're born into a cystic, which
Oh
means I have.
no. Oh,
Oh,
not this shit. Come on, man. Not this shit.
You can rebut it. That's all I'm saying. See, it starts at the birth certificate, and it's a. Let me make sure I say this right. It's a bond. It's an instrument. So it's saying that the United States of America is a corporation.
Oh my
And
god.
okay, I can prove that America is a corporation. Now hold
Why
on.
why are you bringing up a law from the shores of England that is older than the country itself? Why on earth would the United States be subject to this law of 1666?
Okay, now I'm just gonna say one thing. I'm gonna show you why. I'm just gonna show you real quick. Hold on. I'm going to the. That's a good question. I'm going to the. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Where is this at? Where is this at? Constitution. Hold on one second. I just got to go to this one site. It's going to take me directly there to the maxims of law in 1860 that they was practicing these laws in America, the Latin maxims of law, where we was practicing the cease the Q trust in America in 1860s during the war, where we had to sign contracts and birth certificates in English. That's the only thing I'm showing is in 1850s and 60s, we was talking Latin in America.
Okay.
The French didn't come over here and beat the Americans. You see what I'm saying? This is a law that was still that goes on today in the maxims of law.
Even if I were to grant you that the United States, as it later was formed, adhered to what's in the Siskiyou law of 1666. What does that law actually even say? Because as far as my understanding is concerned, that law had to do with spouses and families of sailors being able to claim property rights if a sailor is lost at sea in some sort of a catastrophe or a ship or something of that nature. It had nothing to do with turning everybody into a corporation due to their birth certificate. It was a way of allowing families to be able to collect on their rights when they died at sea.
Okay, I'm just gonna look up in maxims of law in English. I mean in America. I don't know about like you said because you said it was over there in France. Okay, that's might
Not
be
in
the stuff
France,
over there.
England.
Okay, in England, but I'm saying the CCQ via, which means like they have or I have, is he who has life land is holding by another person. Whose life land is holding by another person. Now let's go to and it's called attendant per alter via. Now let's go to the other CCQ use. He who uses land is he to whose use land is granted to another person. And I'm just thinking, I'm not saying I'm right. We're just going back and forth. And we grant them this right, which is contract law through our mothers giving them the birth certificate. I digress. It's just steel sharpening sword. That's all. It's just steel sharpening steel.
Okay, in what form or fashion does that law or that trust have anything to do with birth certificates and how people and the state operate with birth certificates? Because as far as everybody else in the regular world understands it, a birth certificate is simply a registration for with the state to declare that this is who I am, this is who your birth parents are, for legal purposes. It has no other underlying meaning of this is a corporation, this is a bond, this is a freaking stock certificate or anything like that. You need to demonstrate that this birth certificate has some meaning beyond a simple registration form.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, this is gonna take me 30 seconds. This is gonna take me 30 seconds. First, that the majority of American laws today are the definitions are in Black's Law Dictionary. So I'm just trying to say that in Americans' law that we practice today, the CCQ used the CCQ via the CCQ trust. That's what it is. CCQ trust is in America's today's law. Now I'm gonna go back to the 1856 Latin and French. They was using this in the 1860s in America. They took it from these laws and transferred it to English. This is the Bouviers. I just went to Latin. Now hold on. I'm going to the CCQ trust, which is a will, trust, and estate. That's what they say it is. It's the wheels, trust, and estate.
I know what.
I digress.
Yes, I'm well aware of what wills, trusts, and estates are. That's one of my focuses that I had when I went to law school. So I'm well aware of what a trust is. I'm well aware of what a estate is. I'm well aware of what a will is. That's still, you still haven't answered my question. Is how do we go from Siskivi Trust to everything's a corporation?
Okay, I'm gonna show you here, right here. 1 second. I'm gonna show you that what a certificate is, which is a birth certificate, and then in law, what a certificate is. I thought already builds with me in law. It's a nice little build. But all I'm showing is, let me go back to this. A birth certificate. A birth certificate is a certificate. That's what it is. It's a certificate. It's a certificate. It's the birth certificate. Now, when I look up in law what a certificate is, it's an instrument. When I
Okay.
look up an instrument, it's a written document, formal and legal document in writing, such as a contract, deed, will, bond, or lease. So when I
Okay.
look up the will and the deed, because that's what a certificate is a deed.
Such as a contract. That does not mean that every legal instrument is a bond, will, or contract. The definition you just wrote there provided contract, deed, will, bond as examples of a legal instrument, not that every legal instrument are those things. That's why this you gotta read such as in those are examples.
Yeah, and then you're right. So an example of example of an instrument is a certificate, a deed, and all instruments.
No, it's certificate. Certificate does not mean deed.
Well, hold on. Let's look up certificate real quick. What is a
Oh my
certificate?
god.
I like you. You sharpen my sword. I'm not mad. Okay, hold on. Let's go to this. We're already in the C's. We're already in the C's in Bouviers. This is Bouviers. This is the stuff in the 1800s. Then I'm gonna go to the 1900 dictionary. Certificate. Certificate practice. A written made in any court, a properly authenticated and given notice to another court of anything done therefore, or it is written which is which by which an officer or another person bears testament, and that a fact has or has not taken place.
Yeah, such as somebody being born.
There are two different kinds of certificates.
Come on, man.
Hold on, I'm just gonna say once you know that's there's three different definitions of certificate. I just want to see what you was gonna say after that one. There's really four different, but anyway, this one it says there's two different types of certificates. This is in Bouvier's Big Dog. It says those required by the law and those that are merely voluntary. That's a contract, bro. That's a contract. That's a contract. You have to contract into all instruments.
That's not no, you are simply asserting that it's a contract. I didn't say anything about it being a contract. You're that's the conclusion you're trying to draw there.
Okay, hold on. Okay, I mean you're right about that because it didn't say it. It says of the first kind of certificates being to involve of his discharge. What does that mean when you discharge of what? A contract.
No. The discharge
Okay.
can have a lot of different meanings. You're discharged from custody, from being in custody. You're discharged from your debts, from paying your debts. Your discharge has a lot of different meanings than simply being discharged from the legal obligations of a contract.
You're discharged from that legal obligation. I'm just going with you. When you in penitentiary, that's a legal obligation. You're discharged now. When you're in the great forces of the great military, you sign that contract and then they'll discharge you. That's a contract. And then it says right here, and those given to the aliens that may have been naturalized.
That
That's
they have been naturalized.
a contract.
No, it's not.
Naturalization in the contract saying that I sign this contract and take oath to the United States of America and its flag, and I will not go against it.
That's not a literal contract.
Oh, so you saying being a citizen isn't a contract?
No.
I'm just asking though. You see, I ain't gonna cut you off, brother. And if you would like me to look up anything, I will.
Oh my god. So, you want to use your bouviers? I'll go ahead and use my Black's Law second, since I know you guys really love law dictionaries for some reason. Certificate: a written assurance or official representation that some act has or has not been done, or some event occurred, or some legal formality has been complied with. Particularly, such written assurance made or issuing from some court and designed as a notice of things done therein, or as a warrant or authority to some other court, judge, or officer. And then put in birth in front of that, and you have a written assurance that, hey, I was born, or this person was born on this date to these parents, and I am signing this as a witness to that event. And therefore, that is all it is, and that is all it is, and that is perfect. That is a perfect definition of the birth certificate as we understand it today, and not as some sort of hidden contract that some people are unwittingly signing.
Okay, so you said that a certificate is an assurance.
A written assurance or official representation that some act has or has not been done, or some event occurred, or some legal formality been complied with.
Okay, now when I look up insurance, because that's what you just said it is. It says it's a deed or instrument of conveyance, a legal evidence of a transfer of property.
A written assurance or official representation. Dude, you gotta read the entire definition. Or official representation.
Okay, I'm looking at the insurance part of it. The insurance part is a deed or instrument.
Okay. A written assurance or official representation that some act has or has not been done. The modern the modern terminology of a birth certificate, they're going to say it's a written representation that some act, aka birth, has been done, or some event occurred, aka a birth has occurred. This person was born on this date. They're not going to go with, oh, it's a written assurance. You can claim it to be, but just because a certificate can have two meanings doesn't mean that when it's used, it means both. It has both meanings being used at the same time in that context.
Facts. I gotta agree with you on that one. But I'm just trying to say on okay, half the reason, I'll even say half of it, because you said it got two meanings. On half the reason, it says there seems to be a tendency, however, to make assurance for the contracts of the life insurance. So anything you got to do with it's the contracts, bro. On half of it, not the other half you talking, because I'm not going. I'm saying that you have right.
I'm not saying a certificate can't have any. I'm not saying a certificate, as we define it, can't have nothing to do with a contract. That's not all I'm saying. But our topic of discussion so far has been about a birth certificate, and that's what I'm focusing on here.
Now, you said that it has two meanings, and I'm agreeing with you that it's an assurance and the other one. So I'm saying the other one, you're stuck on. I'm just stuck on insurance. I'm not saying that I'm all the way right, but I'm halfway right.
Okay,
Because it
so
says right here.
okay, if you're going to buy the idea that that assurance, or at least a birth certificate or certificate used in the context of birth certificate means something about a written assurance, you need to provide evidence that that is what the actual meaning is. Because as far as I've seen and everybody else has seen and what every regular person sees, the term certificate in birth certificate means simply a representation that an act has occurred or an event has occurred and nothing further.
Yes, it's the act, and the act that the mother signed onto the state of. That's the signature. That's the contract.
That's not that. No, the fact that she signed something doesn't make it a contract.
It don't.
No.
So what do you sign that's not a contract?
Let's see. I see it signed. Say, for example, an affidavit that I am signing that the words that are put on this affidavit are true to the best of my ability.
That'll hold you that is a contract because it's perjury under law if you sign it and something's wrong with it, so it's your contract.
That's not a contract.
It's your signature.
The mere fact that I signed something does not automatically make the document that I'm signing a contract. I know this is a common meme that you guys like to use, but that's not how. Oh, that's not everything I sign with. My driver's license isn't a contract. I could still get in trouble. I can still get in trouble with the state for driving without a license, even though I never signed a contract to have a license.
You signed a contract at birth. Your mother signed the contract and signed you over at birth to the state. That's why we're citizens of the United States.
That again, we just had this. That's the crux of this issue that we're having. I already explained that a birth certificate is not a contract because based on the definitions that we've been talking about here in the first place, and the mere fact that she signs it or your parents sign it does not automatically turn it into a contract.
Now you told me
you need to provide evidence to me that everything you sign, anything I sign, is a contract.
Okay, first off, to get back to this, you said that the certificate is an assurance, and you used another word that we haven't got to yet. I'm just sticking to the insurance. So you cannot say that I'm all the way wrong. You can say I'm halfway wrong because an assurance is a contract. It's a deed and an instrument. That's all I'm saying.
A deed like I told you before, an instrument is not automatically a contract.
That's what it's saying in the same dictionary that me and you were using. It's saying that in the same we're using the same dictionary, the Black's Law Dictionary.
I just told you. I'm sorry, but I just told you when you were putting in the definition of an instrument, it says a written document, semicolon, a formal or legal document in writing, comma, such as a contract, deed, will, or bond. Again, I have to tell you this again. Such as means that what it's telling the reader is that what's coming after that are examples of a legal instrument, not that every instrument is a contract.
I didn't say that. First off,
you just said that. You just said that, dude.
I said that we haven't got the other word that you said, assurance. When we looked up the word assurance of the certificate, I'm halfway right at least. It's an instrument. I'm not saying that you're not making valuable points. I'm not saying the other half. I'm not saying that all words don't have double meanings and triple meanings. I'm agreeing with you on that. But you got to say I'm halfway right on what the instrument is. Shit, we're looking at the same thing.
I said that I conceded that an instrument can be a contract. You need to demonstrate that a birth certificate is a contract and not simply a representation that an act has been done. And the only thing you've given me to show that a birth certificate is a contract is simply by stating that the fact that somebody signs it makes it a contract. That's where you gotta put your evidence here.
I gotta agree with you, man. I like the way you say that. I like the way you do that. Okay, because I got the certificate right here. It's a written assurance or an official representation. Okay, what types of certificates? Blah blah blah. Certificate of title. Difference between a certificate and birth certificate. This is from Black's Law Dictionary, second edition too. A certificate between the difference between a birth certificate and a certificate of live birth. There's two different ones. This is in
Okay.
the same dictionary. Written by such and such, checked by law, blah 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 blah. When our mothers is in the hospital, the medical community has established the practice of issuing certificates of live birth when the human being enters the world. This form will include the basics of the baby's name, parent's name, doctor's name, blah 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 blah, the record. Healthcare professionals will then enter the information into the hospital database. Now, hold on, let's just stop right there for 1 second. Then it goes to the corporation, which is called the vital statistics.
And there you're making yet another assumption.
You got it right back. You got it right back. It goes to the commercial entity, vital statistics. At this point, the father, who has verified information, blah blah blah, mistakes made on the original form. That's that they're writing it over. Hold on. Or during medical data entry to the corporation, the vital statistics. The mother will, of course, be stressed and won't be able to concentrate while giving this information. Shit, god damn. I mean, that's how all Americans since the 1933s have become citizens. The
Oh my God.
How else have we become citizens and everybody else go through naturalization? We don't go through that. We go through subject forms of this. This is proof of it.
You're citizens by birth.
That's not lawful. You can't be a citizen.
Yes, it is.
Hold on, brother. I can't be born in China and say I'm naturally a citizen right there. Now I might have indigenous rights to that land. They might not could just treat me like a crazy person, but I'm not a Chinese person if I'm born in China.
I don't know what the laws are in China, but I do know that in the United States, birthright citizenship is a thing. You are automatically, by virtue of you being born within the territory of the United States, are a citizen if you are born within its geographic boundaries. Period. End of.
You have to sign the birth certificate.
No, you don't even need to sign a birth certificate.
Then how do they deport people that's immigrants that's born here? Like they did that 7-year-old that swam across Cuba. They deported him back, and then he came back legally.
Because the sad reality is that sometimes the parents get to have the parents who may be a foreign national may have greater rights than the citizen child in certain circumstances. That is an unfortunate reality.
That was a good point you're saying. So you're saying if the parents is in another country,
if the parent is a foreign national, in other words, the father in Cuba, as they were called from you. I mean, I assume we're talking about Elian Gonzalez from way back in the day, right?
Yes.
If the father, because my understanding is that the mother fled Cuba, with the child, or you know, it's a good question. I can't recall, but I understand that the mother fled with the child to Florida. I believe you're right that the child was a U.S. citizen, was a born citizen. However, because of the circumstances of when he got there, and because of certain circumstances regarding custody and international laws regarding custody and parents unlawfully taking their children with them, the court eventually said that the father had what's the best way of saying it? The father had what the hell you pronounce? How do you say it? He had I don't want to say priority, but that's the best word I got for it. He had priority over the custodial rights for the child, and so they sent him back. But even if we're going, but I'm gonna set that aside for a second and go back to what you were saying earlier about being born here. and or at least going back to where you're going about the birth certificate or what you had just up previously. That I don't see the issue of what was written on there, but more to the point, you are already presuming that the Bureau of Vital Statistics or what have you is a corporation already to begin with. So I'm fundamentally rejecting your presupposition right there to begin with, because you haven't demonstrated that the state's Bureau of Vital Statistics is a corporation as we understand it.
Okay. Statistics Office. I mean, it hasn't been around. It was made in 1930, 1940s. It was made after the stock. It was made. Hold on, I just want to go to it first before, because I feel you though. I like how you say, "Look, show me, quit talking." I love that. That's what I like. We need more people like that. Shut up and quit talking. Show it to me. Vital statistics. Oh, it's. Let me see if this place birth certificate. It's all do with your birth certificates. Let me make sure. Vital statistics. Office of Vital Statistics.
Are you saying that because it was created in the 1930s that makes it a corporation?
Yeah, it has its articles of incorporation. It's on the 60Q it's on the Duns and Bradstreet number. It started by deals. It started by bonds. Everything in America.
Duns and Bradstreet does not, just because something's listed on Duns and Bradstreet does not make it a corporation. Oh my God! You know that states have credit ratings, right?
Yes,
Because
no,
they borrow money to fund public works projects.
facts. So they're saying it's a corporation because corporations only deal with corporations.
Oh my God! No, dude. When you buy a sandwich at McDonald's, are you dealing with a corporation?
I am a corporation. Yes, the people of America are entities. They're corporations.
I'm not a corporation, dude. I am not an association of a group of people for nonprofit or profit-making businesses. I am my own flesh and blood, dude.
How was America made?
If I stab myself, here, I'm gonna bleed out. I don't think a corporation can bleed out, but I could still make transactions with my local Wawa if I go down the street in about 10 minutes.
Now hold on, let's rewind this because I got a little off. Got a little off. What was we building on?
You are suggesting that only corporations can deal with each other, and I'm saying I deal with corporations all the time, and I sure as shit am not a corporation.
Okay, damn you tongue tied me. You did a good job on that one. That was a good one. Okay, prove you're not a corporation.
Well, I don't think corporations can bleed, and I'm pretty sure if I poke myself, I'm gonna bleed out.
I'm asking you once again, so I'm asking you one question. Prove that you are not a citizen. Okay, how about that? Prove you're not a citizen.
I'm never denying that I'm a citizen, but you're already operating on the assumption that a citizen is a corporation, which I reject.
Okay, oh, there you go. I'm glad you went there. I had to get back at that one. Now, when I look up I'm glad you went there real quick. When I look up an EIN, number or EIN form. When I look up EIN form, hold on real quick. I'm going to go there real quick. Look at this EIN form. Images. Go to the image real quick. Hurry up. I don't like wasting too much time. EIN form. It's going to show you at the top of an EIN form that, oh man, that is not an EIN form. That's no. Look for a tax EIN EIN form. I should have just looked up tax thing. It's going to state directly at the top of application for an employer identification number. That's all I need right here.
Right.
I could work it right here. I could work this from right here. The only way to become a corporation in America, become a government agency, is you get you an EIN number. It says application is for employers, corporation, partnerships, trusts, estate, churches, government agencies.
And here we go again.
Right there. Hold on, there go my proof that all government agencies.
That's not proof, dude.
Oh.
Dude, okay, let me put it to you this way. if a government agency is a corporation, why is it separate in that list?
It's just like the
Why
rest
is
of
it
them.
separate from corporation?
It has a corporation number. That's what I'm trying to say. It's an employer identification number. It's a corporation.
A
That's all I'm
government
saying.
agency can hire people.
It's a corporation.
A government agency can hire people. Hiring somebody to do a job does not make them automatically a corporation. If I hire a guy to mow my lawn, am I automatically a corporation because I pay him for his services?
I'm gonna show this right here. I'm gonna show the CCQ Trust, which I
No,
showed.
no, 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 no! Don't go back. No, 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 no. We're don't run away from this. If the simple fact that somebody can hire another person, does that make them a corporation?
Yes, that's a business. And it's contracted like that. Now, if you said, look, you do this bit, you do this, if me and you shake hands and you go over there and do this for me and I'll give you some potatoes.
That's a contract between two individuals. Does that make both individuals corporations there for the duration of the services?
No.
Okay, then. So then why'd you bring that up?
Because it's money, corporate money. It's corporations. There you go.
So now the fact that money is exchanged makes it a corporation. You seem to be real. You keep, dude. You got to nail yourself down because you keep on moving the goalpost as to what is or is not a corporation. First, you said it was the fact that a government agency has an EIN number, and now you're saying the simple fact that money, that currency is exchanged between the two parties, that suddenly makes them a corporation. You realize how that's a walk back into a switch into a separate argument, right?
Now hold on. All I'm saying is this. My thing was that the United States of America is a corporation, a private trust corporation. That's what I'm claiming through the CCQ Trust in 1850s Bouviers, through the 1900s Black's Law Dictionary. Then I looked up what an employer identification number is. It has government agencies on there. Now I'm gonna ask you to prove that America is not. I'll even look it up for you.
I don't have to prove a negative to you, buddy.
Oh man.
I know you don't like it, but like I said before, in that very form you showing there right now, it implies it's a heavy implication that a government agency is not a corporation, or else it wouldn't be separate from it in that list.
Corporation hierarchy, is that the right way? Corporation hierarchy.
Now, a government agency can be a type of corporation, but it wouldn't be the equivalent of a for-profit like GE or a McDonald's, because there is such a thing as municipal corporations. But those are a for-profit entity. They are a separate body that has a very specific role and has very specific powers that are recognized.
Oh, I got you right here, Artie. I got you right here, man. This is
how do you got me? You're giving me a corporate structure thing. What does that have to do with whether or not a government agency is a corporation?
No, I'm saying the United States of America because it has its boards of trustees, its boards of directors. Then it has its president. It don't have a country hierarchy like a king or a queen. It has the board of directors, which is a trust. Then it has the CEOs, which is the presidents.
A CEO is not. The president is not a CEO. You are assuming that because a corporate structure vaguely, I don't even want to say vaguely, that doesn't even match how our current system of government is organized. You're saying that makes it a corporation. That's not even remotely accurate. The board of directors. Who are the board of the directors in this analogy that you're trying to make here? Is it the people? Is it Congress? Congress doesn't choose the president like the board of directors chooses a CEO.
Now, when I look up the Ohio Revised Code, the ORC, the Ohio Revised Code. Ohio Revised. Damn, why does it keep doing this? The ORC, the Ohio Revised Code. It should come up there. Whenever you go to any state, like you said, where's my Ohio Revised Code at? And why don't I put dots in this shit? When you look up any state code, when you look up any state code, when you look up any state, and when you look at any state, you go to their revised code because it's the code of law. Why the freak do it keep doing this stuff to me? Here it is, Ohio Revised Code. Here we go. And you look in the so-called the titles, you'll go down and you'll see the trust. And that's what the board of trust is. It's the board of trustees. That's in every township and community. It's just what it is, man. This is a corporation, bro.
No, you're trying desperately to connect that because the organizational structure of a town or a municipality vaguely looks like that of a regular corporation, therefore town is exactly like a for-profit private corporation. I just explained to you that there is such a thing as a municipal corporation, but I already told you that that is a very distinct and separate entity from a for-profit private company like GE or Microsoft.
I think they got their own jurisdictions, and like McDonald's is its own it owns its land. It don't pay taxes on its land. That's one now. That's one corporation.
McDonald's sure as shit pays property taxes on its franchises. They pay.
Is because they referred to him like Donald Trump. That's the only reason I know that, because they was like, oh well, we could take Trump back to where McDonald's didn't show their trust books because their stuff was in private and they didn't have to pay for it because their stuff was trustees run their stuff like a corporation.
I'm sorry. You're gonna have to repeat that one. What the?
Okay, McDonald's when it gets its land, it's its land. It's its own entity. It has its own land. It's land. It's stuff. And they say Trump's the towers that Trump managed. They was trying to get him to do a lot of things and show all the books, and they say they couldn't because they had to go to the trustees, the trust of it. You feel what I'm saying? And it's kept in private. So that's showing that there's two hats. You feel what I'm saying? And a lot of us don't understand a lot of this.
I don't know what the hell. I don't know what the hell that has anything to do with McDonald's paying property taxes.
They don't pay them. They don't pay no type of taxes.
They do pay. They do pay taxes. They pay corporate tax. They pay income tax, and they do pay property taxes on their headquarters and the franchises that they own all over the place.
Like okay, anybody. No, I'm gonna say I'm wrong. I'm right on that. I'm just gonna say the way they pay it, it's at the bare minimum. Okay, you're right. They get the sweetest deals. How about that?
We can that is a separate argument from what you were just saying. I mean, we can have a debate on whether or not corporations are paying a sufficient amount of tax, but that is a separate, and I accept your concession that they do in fact pay property taxes.
Only thing I'm gonna say is I heard, because I don't do it and I haven't had no property to put into a trust, but I heard that shit vanished and you don't pay property taxes when you don't belong to America. It's a trust. But I can't prove it because I ain't did it, so I have to receive and say, you're right. You know what I'm saying? So, but you know what I'm saying? You can't, they don't, if the people that, America don't pay taxes on this stuff because it's held in trust. The trustees. And them are the heirs.
What trustees? Like who are the supposed trustees? Are they shadowy?
No, of the townships. See, this is of the townships in America, chapter 5. It goes through the rules of the trustees, and then the clerks, and then the constables, and then all their buildings and stuff that they like to, it's just what the world did. Ain't blaming no certain people. I'm just trying to wake people up that.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what trustees means in the Ohio Revised Code, but that's because it's Ohio. I know in New Jersey, New Jersey's municipal code does not have any separate section on trustees. So I don't know what that is. It's probably from what I'm looking right there, that looks like they're the equivalent of a township committee or the town council, city council.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying everybody know now. We're a lot of people starting to wake up, and we starting to see that there's trustors, trustees, beneficiaries, and the principal. And you know what I'm saying? I'm just
Yeah,
seeing
but
that these are the trustees. Why would they
right.
call them?
You're Your guess is as good as mine as terms of why they decided to choose trustee versus council member, committee man, or what have you. I don't know, but based on the definition of what that is, that's what it looks like that person or that individual is, and not what I think you're alluding to, as in they trustee of a trust, of an actual trust or something held in trust. And I think that's what you're trying to allude to further this argument that, townships are corporations and that they hold everything in trust and beneficiaries and executors and all this jazz, all this use of terminology wholly incorrectly when, somebody gets a traffic ticket and they got to go to court the next day.
I've never, you never really see me talk that stuff on here. I've never really talked that because I haven't walked it all the way. You never really heard me tell somebody to go put themselves in danger and go do something that we think is lawfully that I haven't did. You ain't hear me say that. All I'm saying is America was started on a cease to Q trust, and it's in its townships that are not corporated, and that's what you call the unincorporated areas. And then when you come into the corporated areas, shit, that's the corporation of the United States of America. I'm
No,
not saying no white man. Hold on, brother. I'm not saying no white man did it. I'm not saying the black people are innocent. I'm just saying what it is. And I think that a lot of people would like to know this information to help the world out. That's the only reason I'm looking at it like this. But I'll digress.
I don't. Yeah. See, again, you are reverting back and making your declaration of what is really going on, what the world actually is, or what the state of the law is in this country, and you really haven't provided any evidence other than to suggest that Siskiyou, trust was used in the 1860s at some point, and then just again you're declaring that this somehow means that the U.S. is a corporation, and therefore these townships are also corporations. Again, in the same vein as a McDonald's or a GE, without any evidence to it. Which again, I've also pointed out, and as the Ohio Revised Code pointed out, that municipal corporation has a very distinct definition behind it. So you really haven't provided a whole lot of evidence here to support your claim that not just America is a corporation, but all these individual towns are supposed private corporations that we somehow signed ourselves into agreements with using, or our parents signed us into agreement with on our birth, based on our birth certificate. Again, a lot of these things that you're saying are presumptions and assumptions and conclusory statements without a whole lot of evidence.
I like how you said that I said the words corporation, and I'm wrong for saying the words corporation. It's supposed to be a person who benefits from the fiefdom, or the person that holds the stuff in the unincorporated areas, which we call townships. Okay, so I'm a halfway agree with you, but when we get outside them townships and unincorporated areas, they have some corporations inside the city limits, bro. That's not under trust. So you're right. All of the United States, you're correct. It is not a corporation. It is held by somebody. But then the next part of America, the second treaty, yes, it's all about corporation law.
Wait,
That's the best way I can say it. It's two hats. I digress.
What treaty are we talking about now?
No, I'm saying a cease to Q trust. Now you could be right on that. It could be under a kingship, which it is. They say the king's law. I'm gonna go halfway with you on that, okay? But the other half of the king's law is the people that's subject into this corporation law. You know what I'm saying? So you're right. United States, damn, you're right. The United States of America is not a corporation. Damn, you're right. But damn, that's deep. But it do play two hats, and it is a corporation, though. But you fucking slickster.
Hey, we're making progress, right?
Oh man, yeah, you're correct. You're right. Yes. You just sharpened my sword. Thank you, sir. Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
well, it was fun, buddy. It was fun though, but I gotta call it here though. It's been
Hey,
a
y'all,
while.
check out Artie's channel. Just know he gonna sharpen your sword. Don't go over there thinking you know what you're talking about. Yeah, you better know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's right. It ain't a corporation. I ain't gonna go in here. It is not a corporation. He is correct on that. Ooh, wee.
All
Thank
right,
you,
man.
Artie.
You take care, man.
Salute, brother.
I deserve everything that I'm getting here. I deserve everything that I'm getting in my head right now. This pain. That's what I do to myself, apparently. Oh man. Oh well, there you go, guys. I did my my due diligence for the week on this channel. God. Oh man. Is there any recent sovereign citizen videos? I mean, I have the day off tomorrow. I mean, I could still keep on going to try and wash this down. Anything new from Van Balian? Because, God, it's just, it's like layers and layers and layers of wrong, and it's just so very hard to pin him down on one thing. I mean, and you saw how he kept on moving the goalpost more and more and more and more and more. There really isn't a whole lot. Oh, what's this? Noble Academics on Facebook. Is that an actual thing? Like an actual like title? Did they actually spell it like that?
I mean, after it blew up, I didn't see who it was. I didn't know it. I think there's a way out to my left, and it looks like it's kind of a driveway, but this is a church parking lot, I thought.
We're already at a church parking lot.
I'm gonna get my ID out of my pocket.
No, just wait. What?
Okay, he's
Yeah, just know what's going on. So what's going on?
Oh man, so already they got the double recording, and my beer is almost done. So, and I'm probably gonna get another one. Like I said, I got the day off tomorrow, so I might as well go balls out. One second.
Well, I mean, what's going on? What's going on?
I need you to identify yourself. One thing, you're back here on private property.
Okay, for
All right, so I
what's
need
the
you to
reason?
identify
What's the
yourself.
reason why you're trying to identify us?
Because you could be wanted.
Okay, but do you have a lawful reason for the stop? Do you have a reasonable articulable suspicion?
I think he just said it.
You gonna give me your IDs or not?
What crime do you suspect us of committing?
Give me your IDs now.
Do you suspect that there's a crime being committed?
Yeah, give me your IDs now.
Yes or no? Because I'm about to bust it out if you don't start giving me some
Nice.
IDs.
Already.
We're recording this. Oh,
Stop.
hey,
I will
where do you,
stop.
why, hold on.
Why
Can
are
we get a
you being
supervisor?
so violent? I need a supervisor.
Let's get a supervisor, please.
I need your
You need to
supervisor,
identify
please.
yourself.
Man,
I need your supervisor.
Be
I don't-
halfway to
I'm
bingo
very
already.
scared of you.
I am the supervisor.
Oh, do you have a supervisor that's over you?
No, not right now. There is none.
Nope.
No.
Oh my god.
Okay, can we get a sheriff out here, please?
I need a sheriff.
No, you don't need a sheriff. You're in the town of
Right,
Madison.
right.
You're gonna give me an
The
ID.
sheriff has jurisdiction here.
No,
too.
he doesn't.
Give me your IDs. Roll down the window now.
What is the reason?
I'm
Can-
about to bust your window out. Give me your
Okay,
IDs.
that's illegal.
No, it's not illegal. Give me your IDs now.
What is the reason you're asking for the ID?
You got about 2 seconds before a window's getting busted out.
Can you tell us the reason?
I'm afraid to
Please,
put my,
please
I'm
don't
afraid
smash.
to put my hand down.
Hold on a second. Let me see if I can.
Because I don't want you to say that
Roll the window down. That's all.
The windows.
It's
The
not
windows.
enough.
The windows cracked.
I have the
Hand down there and roll
volume all the
You
way
can
up.
hear
Hold on a
us,
second.
right?
I'm really scared of you.
Right there.
Give me your
We're-
ID.
We're afraid of you.
You
Are-
real afraid I'm gonna bust
I
this window
already
out
am.
right
Hey, you gonna be real afraid once I bust his window out.
What crime?
Ah.
now. Be one, I don't know who you are. You're on private property back here. Give me your ID.
Can you tell me what crime you suspect us of committing?
Cut the car off.
It's cold out.
Cut the car off.
It's cold.
1.
Please don't
Please
don't
stop.
smash the window.
Please don't smash
I'm
my
not
window. I
messing
don't
with
wanna
you.
read-
Please
Oh
stop.
shit!
Please stop.
Stop.
What do you need?
What do you want? Are you?
Can you
help
help?
us?
Can you
Help
stop?
me, please.
What is going on?
Man,
Please, there's another somebody on your right.
Now.
Can I tell him you
Is-
can't see?
Yeah, I'm.
He's blind.
Roll the window
I
down.
want
I'm
to
gonna
help.
bust it out.
What do I do?
Okay, yeah, I'm just
Just
gonna
a second.
threaten
I'll
violence.
can I give you my? I'll show you my ID. Please
Bust
don't break.
y'all's ID. Now.
I don't have one.
I'm gonna get my ID out.
You got about
I'm getting my ID. It's in my back
if I take a
pocket.
gallon of milk and pour in enough Nestle Quick to make it super chocolatey, am I giving up on life or living it to its fullest?
I don't have one.
I would say the latter, Nathan. I would say the latter.
He doesn't have a driver's license.
You ain't got an ID at all?
No.
Give me,
I'd rather not hand it to you. I will show you my ID. Come on, man.
give me the ID.
He's threatening to hurt you, so just do
Here.
what he says.
Goddamn ID. I am terrified of you right now. Can you please step back?
He does not have an ID at all.
No.
Who
He's
is he?
blind. Why would he have an ID?
Who is he?
Can I tell him who you are?
No.
Why do you need
No.
You can choose to remain silent.
For murder.
I'm gonna choose to remain silent.
What is that noise that keeps on?
Alright. You getting out of the vehicle now.
We're afraid. Can we get the sheriff out here, please?
No, you can't have
Well, you can call the sheriff. Put him on speaker.
How do I call the sheriff?
Just tell your phone to call whatever Rockingham County Sheriff's Office. Ask him to come
Call
out.
the
Yeah,
Rockingham County Sheriff's Department.
Come on, Siri. Hurry up.
Alright.
Oh, did she actually say that?
Roll the window
Hold on.
down.
Hold on, I gotta see that. Wait, did she actually say plead to Siri?
Sheriff's Department.
Businesses you're looking for.
Oh, please, Siri.
Ah! She did! That's awesome.
Why do you want the window down, sir?
And get out of the car. Or cut the car off and get out of the car.
Why do you want us out
I
of the car?
gave you my ID.
Any more chances?
But I
alright?
gave you
I'm
my
busting the
ID.
window out, I'm gonna take you out of the car.
I'm calling the
Alright?
sheriff.
Why?
Understand that.
We don't. Yeah. Let's keep the sheriff on the phone because we don't feel safe with you here.
Hi, is this the sheriff's department?
Uh-huh.
Open the door.
I need help.
Open the
We
door.
have we're in Madison, in the town of Madison. We have people that are threatening to smash our window. They're saying they're police, but they're not telling us that there's a crime. They're threatening to throw us out of the car.
Do you know where you are?
We're you know what the address is here? Sir?
Huh?
We're on the phone with the
You
sheriff's
know what
office.
the address is here?
The sheriff's office has been hearing all this over the radio. We're
Oh,
all connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need to supervise
You
you.
realize this is a futile
What
effort,
you're
right?
doing is illegal, sir. What you're doing
It's not illegal.
No, it's
I'm
not.
It's not.
He's asking y'all for your ID. You're not giving it. Or
Can the sheriff out here, please?
it took you long enough to give it.
Madison Church with a vehicle.
Please help me. He's threatening to smash my window.
They were
Please
playing
help me.
Pokemon.
Copy. You got a
They were playing Pokemon Go in the middle of the night. 9:50 at night. Damn.
What kind of vehicle are you in?
Y'all got anything better to do?
It's gonna be the
Well, why is my phone blowing up? Damn.
your And they're claiming that an officer
Open
is
the door
asking
now.
them to roll the window down.
Can you tell us why you want us to want the door open?
Cut the car off, open the door.
Man, is it a uniformed officer?
Ha!
Yes.
He looks like a uniform, but he's being really mean.
Open
He's-
the door.
He's being really mean.
Uniformed officer?
Well, you know,
What's the name of
police
the
can be a bunch of dicks.
Madison United.
It doesn't
Methodist-
necessarily mean what they're doing is unlawful.
It's Madison United Methodist Church.
True Freeman? Yes, I have, Jay. I have heard of that individual.
And
I think it's a True Freeman. I've heard of James Freeman. I haven't heard of all the auditors out there. That's because auditors aren't exactly what I pay attention
You
to.
haven't stated any crime or reason for stopping. What's the crime? We were on the way out when you stopped us.
Can I show him what I was doing?
This guy in particular is called as a frauditor. His name is Blind Justice. Oh
I'm
boy.
not talking. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to
No,
this guy.
we're talking. You're trying to talk to them.
Stop. Stop. Please don't.
Please don't smash our window.
Please don't.
Why do you? Why? Why?
Help. He's going to break my window.
Ma'am.
Yes,
I've
sir.
got you on the line. Ma'am, listen
Yes,
to
sir.
me.
I'm listening to you, Sheriff's Department.
Roll your window down. Comply with the order.
We're afraid he's gonna hurt us. He's threatening violence. We don't feel safe.
I don't want him to hurt me. I don't want you to rip me out of the car. I'm terrified.
Ma'am, we are way past that now.
Talk to me.
If you roll the window down.
Why do you want the
Can
window
you step
down?
back and let me talk to anybody else?
The window. We're telling you so we can talk to you.
We're listening. We can hear you.
We're not here to hurt you. We're recording.
Ma'am,
Oh my God.
ma'am, comply with the officer.
We're afraid. We're afraid. He's threatening violence
Why are you afraid?
because he's threatening to hurt our car to destroy
This
our property.
lady.
We don't feel safe.
Stop.
This is your last chance.
I'm gonna roll the window down.
Okay, fine.
Last chance.
Yeah.
Stop.
Down.
Please
I'm
stop.
trying. I can't push it.
Ma'am, if you, sir, if you
What the hell is wrong with this lady?
What are you doing? We do not consent to any searches or seizures of our property. For what? What crime?
I was trying to leave.
We're trying to leave. How is that trespassing?
Why are
You weren't trying to leave. The fuck was that?
Okay, just do. Yeah. They're threatening violence.
I don't want to
So
throw my stuff on the ground. I don't want to throw all my money.
please don't touch me. Please. Okay. I'm.
Jay, I think my email is on my my channel's about page. If not, it's artrexislives@gmail.com.
Disability coordinator.
Step out of the car,
Okay.
man. That's all you gotta do. Step out.
I have PTSD. I have multiple brain injuries. I'm blind.
God. Okay. I don't like to do this. I really don't like to do this because I don't like to make presumptions that everything that like an auditor or a sovereign citizen does is everything that they say is complete bullshit. I generally don't like to do that. But it is very curious that a lot, and I mean a lot of these guys always seem to have some sort of like major injury that happened to them recently right before they're arrested. I think it's kind of curious.
Okay. Do you have a disability coordinator, please? I need somebody to help me communicate because I do not feel safe. She doesn't feel safe. She's got disabilities. That's why this is hard for us to communicate what's going on. Do you understand that? I'm requesting under the Americans with Disabilities.
For somebody who says that he's struggling of what's going on, you seem to know exactly. You sound like you know exactly what you're saying, with all due respect. You seem to be really capable of articulating what your rights are, or what you believe your rights are, what you could say, what you can adhere to. It's just, I'm just saying that as a layman. I'm not saying that as an attorney or as like a psychologist or a doctor or anything like that. I'm just saying that as a layman. The guy sounds like he has everything going on in his head and is not this sort of like, 2 steps away from a breakdown like his partner is.
That we have been talking. You don't have to be in our car. We don't consent to any searches.
If you're blind, how you know I'm in your car?
Because I can hear you.
I wasn't talking. Sir, step
I
out the
heard
vehicle.
you lean. I can feel you on my car, man.
Sir, step out the car, please.
Is it with your legs or?
What?
You're blind. Can you move your legs? Are you able to walk or anything? Or?
What is going on?
Okay, now I feel like you're kind of full of
How's that
shit.
trespassing when we were leaving?
No, you were back here.
We were literally here.
Behind this business, so you need to
We
step
were
out
here
your legs.
playing Pokemon. We were playing Pokemon. And we
Oh,
were on our way out when.
okay. My Pokemans. Let me show you them. Oh boy. Oh, what's going on across the pond? Juan Galt, the guy, Blind Justice?
I said I'm gonna stay in the car, okay?
That's fine, it's not a problem. I just need you to get a driving license and any
No.
identification on you, sir.
No.
I'm obliged to have any.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I'm obliged to have any.
What's your name, sir?
I'm obliged to give you my name.
Yeah, because you're driving a car on a road, and I need to make sure that you've got a driving license.
I'm not
Oh
driving.
God.
Oh, bother me 2 seconds.
Hey.
That sounds Scottish, right?
He's gonna the thing funny buggers me. Hey. Don't worry, I'll do it.
What the hell is that?
Hey, both of them are coming.
Is that Scottish Gaelic?
I've got it.
Gaelic? Gaelic? Is it whatever? Or is that like the slang that I can't hear?
I've got two on there, no? Don't worry.
Reminds me of that scene from Hot Fuzz.
Hey, doing, sir?
Alright.
Any reason why you're recording me?
Why, is it against the law?
But was a cat behind me just
Am I
now?
not supposed to record you?
Can't hear you with the window.
Am I not supposed to record you?
I'm just asking, is there any reason why you're doing it?
Aye, for my own safety.
For your own safety?
Yes.
Oh, you're
What
talking
do you
about
mean
that
your own
cat.
Safety? What do you think I'm going to do?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm recording it.
Right? I'm not going to do anything.
Aye, okay.
Okay?
I'm still going to record you, but okay.
Alright then. What's your name, sir?
Am I obliged to give you my name?
Yes, you are.
Why?
Why? Because you're driving a car on a road.
I'm not driving, mate.
What are you doing?
I'm travelling.
You're
Oh
travelling?
God.
Yes.
Oh
What
yeah.
travelling mean?
You should know. Are you here as a police constable or a police
No,
officer?
I understand driving, not travelling.
Right, are you here as
Okay.
Are you questioning me as a police
that's a good-
constable
that's a good
or as a
tactic.
police officer?
Sorry?
Are you questioning me as a police constable or a police officer?
What the fuck is? He's like, what the fuck is the difference, mate?
Thing?
No, it's no. You should know that. You know what this is? Misconduct in a public office.
Right.
Right.
Okay, sir. Either
Alright.
give me your name or you will be arrested. Under common law. Remind you under caution, you're not by anything, and if you do so, it will be noted and maybe use the evidence.
Oh man, he used the C word. He used the C word. Now the guy's really gonna get riled up. I bet.
common law.
Yes.
Yep.
So what's your name, please?
Am I obliged to give you my name?
Yes.
Yes.
Under which law?
Common law.
Which law is that?
You should
Common
know.
law. Which law is it?
You should know.
That is your common right. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're obliged to give me your name, your date of birth, so I can confirm who you are.
How could I give you my date of birth when I don't know when I was born?
I really hate it when they use that line. I really do hate it. How could I know when I was born when, you know, I was barely conscious at the time? There is nothing that'll piss off a judge more than to try that kind of bullshit tactic. To try kind of weasel your way out of not providing any sort of identification. Anybody, any judge, any lawyer, any appellate court, worth their salt, is going to be like, bullshit. At no point, there is no way in hell that your parents did not tell you that you were born, and throughout your childhood and into your young adulthood did you not believe them or take them at their word. And it wasn't until you bought into this sovereign citizen freeman on the land bullshit that you thought, oh, you know, if I just feign ignorance and not trust my parents, apparently, because that's exactly what this person is saying, that he doesn't believe his parents, you know, kind of crazy. I can weasel my way out of providing identification.
And why do you not know when you were born and on your birth certificate?
Birth certificate is not supposed to be used for identification purposes. It's crown copyright.
If you do not wield Excalibur. What was it? How's it go, Liz? Women lying in ponds, chucking swords does not a government make or something like that. Or he's like, if I were to say to people that I was an emperor, just because some moistened bink threw a sword at me, they put me away.
Eh?
Help, help. Seeing the violence inherited in the system. Help, help, I'm being repressed.
Your door for me, please.
No.
Because you're now under arrest. Because I'm unable to identify who you are. Maybe a warrant for your arrest.
Maybe, Justin. I think, honestly, the weekend is probably going to be filled with me playing Doom Eternal.
You know why? Because I don't want to give you joinder.
If I'm being honest.
Because I do not wish to give you joinder. I do not wish to give you joinder.
Oh, God.
Do a bit of paper and all. I do not wish to give you joinder. Verbal contract.
I'm going to write your name down, sir. If you don't, I'm going to arrest you. Your date of birth on it so I can identify you.
I'll give you my details.
That's fine.
I'll write it down for you, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to
Lord.
say it to you.
That's fine.
Hold that.
Wait, he's got to write them down but not say it. Wait, is he saying that a verbal contract is somehow more valuable than a written one? Because it's kind of the opposite. Not that providing any ID is a contract. Again, I just had a freaking hour-long discussion with somebody about that sort of situation, but still.
Hold on.
What retard flings a scimitar at me? Women lying in ponds distributing swords is not a basis for government. It comes from the mandate for the masses. Not some farcical aquatic ceremony. Stop that!
Bener bang kalap ah.
You're the king? Well, I didn't vote for you. You don't vote for kings. Oh, then how'd you become king then?
What's your numbers? Excuse me.
No, Devon has not come after me.
Sorry?
What's your number, please?
Largely because I pretty much stopped
What was it?
talking about him, talking to
Show me
him, and
again,
talking
please.
about him like
you not gonna say it?
long after our second
Say it.
debate.
Clearly on
debate
You're supposed to say
way
it when I
back.
ask you. You know that.
I really
You're
haven't messed
supposed
with
to
him.
say it when I ask you.
According to whom?
So I imagine
According to
I've
the
been
law.
off his radar
Your
ever
laws.
since.
Your laws.
My laws?
Yes.
Dennis,
What
there's
does
some
that mean?
lovely
Your
filth
maritime
down here.
admiralty laws.
I can't hear a word you're saying.
Your maritime admiralty laws.
You know if it's on the motorway,
Maritime Admiralty.
very loud. I can't
Drink.
hear you unless you put your window down properly, sir.
Your maritime admiralty laws.
Alright.
Mr. Henry.
No, I'm no mister.
Oh God, is he one of those that thinks like common titles like Mr., Mrs. is like, I guess, some sort of assignment of nobility or something?
Mind if I call you by your first name?
You can call me sir.
Sorry, can you say that again?
You can call me sir.
Right, sir. How do I know the details you've just passed to me are who you say you are?
You and me both, Reaper. You and me both.
Then the identification of the written report of the evidence.
Am I obliged to carry identification?
So I can identify if the details you've given me are correct.
Well, I thought you wanted to check if there's a warrant for my arrest.
Yeah, but I can't check because I don't know because you've just written your name down and your date of birth.
Well, that's who I am.
If you've got any identification on you,
No.
then I can double check that to make sure that you've given me the correct details because
No, I don't.
a lot of people do give us false details.
I understand that.
Yeah. Do you have a contact telephone number or you're not on the phone?
No. So can I get your numbers now?
Are you working, sir?
Are you,
I don't consent
sir? Sir, are you employed?
to the question.
Is this your car, sir?
I don't consent.
Is this your vehicle? I got a strong suspicion that you're kind of a burden on society, aren't you?
To the questions.
So how do you know that you've got insurance to drive the car?
I'm sure you can check that out.
How can I check that out?
Tom, I think Devon
I'm
is
telling you who
next
I am.
level beyond the usual crazy that comes with being a Moorish sovereign citizen.
T712.
What we call a vehicle defect rectification scheme forum. It's so that you can get your brake lights fixed and take the forum to an MOT testing centre and have them check that your brake lights are working correctly. If they're happy with it, they'll stamp the form for you and you
Gotta get
send
that
it
inspected.
back to the address and your copy of the form. Are you quite happy to accept that?
No.
All right, you're gonna get it anyway.
Right, so what will happen is I'll report you to the courts for defective brake lights, alright? And you'll get paperwork sent through to your home address in due course. You understand that?
No, I don't stand under your authority.
Oh God, he did the stand under thing.
No, I do not stand under your authority.
You don't understand my authority.
I don't stand under your authority.
Right, no
Okay.
problem. Are you a Scottish sovereign, sir?
I don't consent to your question.
AKA yes, yes he is.
when I asked you.
Right, okay.
All right, let's try and
it's a
skip to the end
regulation.
here.
That's why I said regulation.
Does that come from Parliament?
Sorry?
Does
Oh,
that
God.
come from Parliament?
Don't they all?
Anyway. Under Regulation 23 road vehicles.
Does that come from Parliament?
1989.
Does that come
If you
from
let me
Parliament?
finish,
Does that come from Parliament?
If you let me finish, okay, and stop interrupting, please, sir. You are required to maintain the bulbs on your vehicle, which is this one that you are travelling in.
It's not a vehicle.
Of course it is.
What would you call it then, sir?
Private conveyance.
A
Oh,
private
God.
conveyance. And if you weren't travelling in it, what would you call it?
What do you mean?
Well, what are all these things on the road that are driving by us? What are they?
It's whatever they choose to call them.
Well, choose to call it a car or a vehicle.
Well, I choose to call this a private conveyance.
Well,
Well, what?
matter of opinion then.
Well, that's the law, isn't it?
Sorry, sir.
Is that not the law?
Is that not the law?
Do you?
What the law?
Do you know the law?
That it's a private conveyance when you're not using it for business or commerce.
Okay.
When you're not using for business or commerce or any financial gain on the roads, it's not a vehicle, it's a private conveyance. You should know this. This is quite troubling.
That's not the law.
This is quite troubling now because you know what this is? You're not letting me finish.
Is this black law?
You're not letting me finish, are you?
Okay.
You asked me to let you finish and I let you finish. And now you're not interrupting me when I'm trying to say something.
Right on.
This is a private conveyance and I am
This is not a
traveling in it.
motor vehicle, it's an anarcho-syndicalist
I'm not on the
commune.
roads for any financial gain or business or commerce.
Our representatives at a bi-weekly meeting every Thursday.
Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay. And what's your point, sir?
My point is it's not a vehicle
Okay.
and I'm not driving.
Okay.
Oh, you know they will, Tom. I
So
mean,
you don't have any identification
that's
on you,
why
Am I
they'll
obliged to tell
still
you?
accept
sir? Nope.
fiat Federal Reserve notes via PayPal, Cash App,
have to prove who you
Venmo. You know, all that supposed fake stuff
What crime has been committed?
that, you know,
just
isn't
told
real money.
That's an act.
Sorry?
That comes from Parliament.
But they'll still
And
take
I
it
don't
anyway
consent.
because they know they can get their food, they can get their supplies, they can get whatever the fuck they want with it. But then when it comes time to pay their debts and obligations, such as their, I don't know, electric bill. Oh, well, I mean, debts can only be paid with gold and silver tender. I can't pay that. Tool bags.
Right, sir, what's going to happen is I'm going to report you to the court for driving your vehicle with defective brake lights, okay? You'll get paperwork through in due course. What I've got to remind you is that you're still under caution, so you're not obliged to say anything. Anything you do say will be noted and may be used in evidence. You understand that?
No,
What is it you don't understand?
I don't stand under your authority.
You don't stand under my authority. That's a common law caution. But you're not obliged to say anything. Anything that you do say, I'll write it down. It'll be used against you in the court, okay? Charge against you is today's day and date, which is the 14th of January 2015. You did drive this vehicle on the M8 slip road.
Live stopped.
with defective brake lights, whereby they're stuck on, and that's contrary to section 23 of the Road Lighting Regulations 1989. Do you understand the charge?
No.
Do you have anything to reply to the charge?
Yes.
What do you have to reply? If you don't understand the charge, what are you going to reply?
Acts and statutes are given the force of law by the consent of the governed. And
Yeah.
I do not consent.
AKA Parliament, that you vote and elected to give them that authority to pass those acts and statutes, you fucking douchebag.
You don't consent. that what you said there, sir?
Acts and statutes
Yep.
are given
Yep.
the force of law,
Given by
the force of law
the force of
by the consent of the governed.
Yeah. The consent is given through the electoral process by which the governed elect members of parliament who then discuss, propose, and pass those statutes and acts. And once those are passed and enacted, they become law, and it is under the obligation of the governed to follow those laws. If the governed doesn't like the law that was passed, they can replace the members of parliament through the electoral process, thereby maintaining that premise of the consent of the governed. Fecking civics, y'all.
And I do not consent.
Your individual consent is not required. That's what these guys don't get.
No problem, sir. You'll get paperwork sent through to you in due course for that, okay? Have a nice day.
Oh, okay. I think that's it for me. I'm done tonight. I know I don't have work tomorrow, but still, I think I've had enough. But what's funny about this, again, because we just dealt with the right to travel thing. But what's fascinating about that is that given the current climate that we're in, the current, health crisis that we're having, a lot of what's going on in the United States and abroad is a lot of these, quarantine rules, a lot of restrictions on where people can go and what people can do. And I just saw a notification that, the entire state of California is now putting in an order for people to, the shelter in place type of thing. The funny thing is that it is in that kind of situation that is where the right to travel can be properly invoked and challenged. That is a situation where somebody saying, like, my right to go from A to B is in fact being restricted because the government is not simply saying, like, you can't just simply drive. They're saying you can't leave your house. Now, I'm not saying that the government doesn't necessarily have the authority to do that. They very well may have that kind of police power in the context of the current crisis that we're facing. But what I'm saying is these kinds of rules, these kinds of laws and orders, that is where the right to travel is in fact a thing that it has to be considered and weighed and determined on whether or not it's allowed or whether or not the state has the enforcement. Not this bullshit about driving without a license. Not this bullshit about, I can drive my car wherever the hell I want and I don't have to have a license to do that. Not there. Here, this kind of situation, that's where you're having these discussions on one's, right to travel. And it's an interesting discussion because as somebody mentioned, a lot of the laws that the states are invoking, these are coming from like the late 1800s, the early 1900s, back when, vaccines were really a thing, when, outbreaks of polio and cholera and so on was were an annual occurrence, and so the it wasn't until, again, that we had these kinds of, vaccines and measures to put in place that these laws haven't really been invoked up until now, until the situation that we're in. So it's kind of a fascinating thing to look at least for me as somebody who is interested in this. But I just wanted to make that point, before ending the evening, that it's situations like this where, the right to travel can be properly invoked. You know what I mean? Anyway, I hope you guys have a good night. I think I'm calling it a day. Be safe. I hope you guys are doing well health-wise. Your family's doing well. And I will see you guys next time when I see you. Who knows? I might end up talking to RootWords again because, I'm a glutton for punishment. All right, guys. You guys have a good night and take care.